The mist came first, a silent shroud creeping in from the sea. It was an omen, a harbinger of things to come, though none could have known it then. It was a cold, unnatural fog for July, a chilling blanket that defied the warmth of summer. The air hung heavy, thick with an anticipation that prickled the skin. Swallowing the Normandy coast in silence, it muffled the sounds of the waking world, creating an eerie stillness. The familiar sounds of the waves, the cries of the gulls, all were muted, as if the world itself held its breath. Fishermen, their boats bobbing gently in the unnatural calm, glimpsed shapes. Long, dragon-prowed ships, spectral forms materializing from the swirling gray. Vessels of legend thought lost to the mists of time were now undeniably present, emerging from the gloom, impossibly real, their dark silhouettes cutting through the fog like blades. They were ghosts of the past, brought to life in a way no one could have predicted. Onshore, joggers and dog walkers froze, their morning routines shattered by the impossible sight before them. Dogs barked nervously, sensing the primal unease that permeated the air. Watching dozens of longships land, an armada of ancient vessels descending upon the modern world. The rhythmic beat of unseen drums seemed to echo in the hearts of all who watched, their sails striped with bold colors, their prows snarling with grotesque carvings, each ship a testament to a brutal and unforgiving age. The first ship scraped onto Omaha Beach, a hallowed ground now defiled by this impossible invasion. The sand crunched beneath the keel, a sound that resonated with the weight of history. Giants leapt ashore, their feet hitting the sand with a resounding thud, each step a declaration of war. Vikings armored in leather and mail, their faces grim and determined, ready to claim this new world for their own. Axes and shields in hand, glinting in the pale sunlight, symbols of their power and their intent. They moved with predatory grace, a silent, deadly force unleashed upon an unsuspecting world. Scanning the modern world with contempt, their eyes filled with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. This was not the world they knew, but they would conquer it nonetheless. Their leader, scarred and fierce, a veteran of countless battles, stood tall, his gaze sweeping across the beach, raised his axe and roared, a primal scream that echoed across the ages, a sound that echoed across centuries, a challenge to the modern world, a declaration of war against time itself. Phones recorded, news feeds exploded, the digital age struggling to comprehend the analog horror unfolding before its eyes. The Vikings had returned not as myth, but as flesh and fury, shattering the comfortable illusions of the 21st century. The world watched, paralyzed, as history rewrote itself in real time. As the age of peace shattered, its fragments scattering like shards of glass, revealing the brutal reality beneath. The age of the axe had begun anew, its cold steel promising a return to a time of blood and conquest. The serpents of the sea had returned, their hunger for land and glory unsated after centuries of slumber. They brought the 9th century with them, a time of raiding, pillaging, and relentless expansion, a storm ready to be unleashed, threatening to engulf the world in a new dark age. Panic, a silent killer, more infectious than any virus. It spread like wildfire from the beaches of Normandy, carried by frantic phone calls, blaring sirens, and the incessant ping of breaking news alerts. The digital age, once a symbol of progress, now amplified the terror. In Paris, in the hushed, sterile environment of the crisis room, leaders stared, transfixed, at the drone footage unfolding on massive screens. A seemingly impossible sight, Vikings, clad in leather and steel, forming a formidable shield wall on a public beach. They stood defiant, an anachronism come to life, ignoring all attempts at communication, their silence more terrifying than any war cry. Local police, armed with modern weaponry, met an impenetrable wall of shields and the sharp points of spears. The crackle of gunfire was answered not by surrender, but by guttural roars of defiance, a sound ripped from the pages of history. With a unified purpose, the Vikings moved inland, sweeping aside pockets of confused resistance. Their axes honed for battle and their primal hunger for plunder were all too real, a chilling reminder of a forgotten age. The intricate machinery of modern France, its systems and protocols stalled, ground to a halt, paralyzed by the sheer impossibility of the situation. How could this be happening? Stock markets plummeted, crashed, and burned, analysts baffled, their complex algorithms useless against such a primitive threat. How do you fight a Viking invasion in the 21st century? The enemy had no air force to bomb, no navy to sink, no command center to target. Just the brutal simplicity of chaos and ancient tactics, devastatingly effective in close-quarters combat. The deep, resonant tones of Norse war horns echoed across the land, a chilling soundtrack of primal dread, a sound that spoke of conquest and destruction. Progress, it seemed, was merely a fragile veneer, easily stripped away, torn asunder by the raw, untamed power of ancient fury. The world's leaders watched in stunned silence, their carefully constructed order crumbling before their eyes, as history, long dormant, kicked down the door with brutal force. The Vikings were not interested in diplomacy, not asking for permission or offering terms. They were simply taking what they wanted, a stark and terrifying display of ancient conquest. The first true clash happened in Bayeux. French infantry, confident in their technology, entered the silent medieval streets. Expecting a mob, they found disciplined warriors using the city as a weapon. Vikings burst from alleys, shield wall advancing, bullets deflected by wood and steel. The first volley was absorbed. The Northmen did not break. They closed in, axes swinging, turning the fight into brutal hand-to-hand chaos. Armored vehicles became traps, set ablaze by determined attackers. The sight of burning APCs shattered morale. Soldiers fled, hunted by laughing Vikings. Bayeux fell. The Northmen tasted victory against the future, and found it sweet. The Vikings fought with a joy in battle, a berserker rage modern soldiers could not match. The world watched, horrified, as the past overwhelmed the present. The Vikings had proven they were more than legend. They were a nightmare made real. The fall of Bayeux wasn't just a defeat, it was a spark that ignited a wildfire of fear and opportunity in the hearts of those who sought to exploit the vulnerabilities of a seemingly secure world. It demonstrated a weakness, a chink in the armor of modern society, and the Vikings, or those who emulated them, were quick to capitalize. Vikings, emboldened, not just by victory, but by the ease of it, used the town as a base, a staging ground for further incursions. Raiding along the Seine, their longboats becoming symbols of dread on the once peaceful waterway. The river became their highway to plunder. They struck without warning, appearing from the fog like phantoms of a forgotten age, taking what they wanted, with a brazen disregard for law and order, spreading terror, a chilling reminder of humanity's capacity for savagery. Rouen, a jewel of Normandy, became their next prize, a city steeped in history and culture, now a target for destruction. Its defenses woefully unprepared for a siege that echoed the tactics of a bygone era. Modern security proved fragile against ancient brutality. Police were overwhelmed, their training and equipment inadequate against the sheer force and ruthlessness of the assault. Military response was slow and confused, bogged down by bureaucracy and a failure to comprehend the scale and nature of the threat. Vikings laid siege, a chilling spectacle of ancient warfare transported to the modern age. Using fire, the age-old weapon of destruction, and captured vehicles as battering rams, turning the tools of modern life into instruments of devastation. Inside, society collapsed, the thin veneer of order dissolving under the pressure of fear and violence. Power failed, plunging the city into darkness. Water ran out, leaving the population parched and desperate. Panic reigned, a contagion more potent than any disease. The city burned, a pyre of civilization, war horns echoing, a primal scream of conquest, through smoke-filled streets, a grim testament to the city's fall. The Northmen reveled in chaos, their laughter a chilling counterpoint to the screams of the dying, dismantling Rouen block by block, reducing centuries of history to rubble and ash. The world watched live in horrified fascination as the cathedral's spire collapsed in flames, a symbol of faith and resilience consumed by the inferno. A symbol of civilization brought low, a stark reminder of the fragility of human achievement. Rouen was burning, a beacon of despair in a world teetering on the brink, and with it, Europe's confidence in its own security, its sense of invulnerability, was shattered beyond repair. The Vikings were a storm, a force of nature unleashed upon a world unprepared, tearing cities apart, not for conquest but for the joy of the sack, the pure, unadulterated thrill of destruction. The defenders were pushed back, their lines broken, their morale shattered, their will to fight extinguished by the overwhelming tide of violence. The past was not just returning, it was not a mere echo of history, it was winning, rewriting the present in its own brutal image. Europe trembled, not just at the sight of the flames, but at the realization of its own vulnerability. The Vikings were not invincible. Their first encounter with modern warfare came from the sky. 2 attack helicopters appeared, hovering above a warband in open fields. Vikings formed a shield wall, fatal against the gunship's cannons. The helicopters unleashed devastation, shields and men were shredded. The Northmen, stunned, faced a power beyond comprehension. The field became a killing ground. Survivors fled, forever changed. News of the massacre spread. Open fields meant death. The Vikings learned to fear the sky, to adapt or perish. The gods of thunder and lightning now belonged to the men of this age. The Vikings retreated to forests and cities, vowing to fight smarter. They were bloodied, but not broken. They would learn, and they would strike again. The Iron Hawks had taught them a lesson in survival. The war was far from over. The lesson of the Iron Hawks was learned in blood. The Vikings adapted, abandoning open battles for guerrilla warfare. They haunted forests and rivers, striking at night, sabotaging infrastructure. Modern soldiers, reliant on technology, struggled when radios and GPS failed. The Vikings, guided by sun and stars, held the advantage in a world gone dark. In the Ardennes, Eric Bloodaxe led a legendary ambush. Special forces, confident in their tech, were lured into a misty ravine. Smoke and horns disoriented them. The shield wall crashed in, turning the fight brutal and close. Against all odds, the Vikings overwhelmed the elite soldiers. The victory proved technology was not a guarantee. Courage, cunning, and ferocity could still triumph. The tale of the Ardennes spread, hope for the Northmen, a warning for Europe. The Vikings had become a nightmare in the shadows. The machine was not invincible. The war raged on, a bloody stalemate. Vikings controlled shadows and rivers. Europe held the skies. Their eyes turned to England. Danelaw, promised by ancestors. A vast fleet sailed under storm cover, landing across East Anglia. The Royal Navy was outmaneuvered. Vikings vanished into the countryside, bleeding the nation dry. Their true target, London. Longships rode up the Thames, striking at the city's heart. Flood barriers, infrastructure, supply lines. London choked on chaos. Riots broke out. Government lost control. Martial law came too late. The city became ungovernable. The Prime Minister and royal family fled. The Vikings didn't need to conquer London. They broke it from within. Their banner over Parliament was a victory that echoed worldwide. A modern superpower had fallen. The kingdom was lost. The world would never be the same. The fall of London was the turning point. The Vikings' success shattered the idea of the nation-state. New warlords and separatists rose from the chaos, carving out fiefdoms. Normandy became a Viking stronghold. The north of England, a Norse Gaelic kingdom. Borders closed, democracies crumbled, the EU disintegrated. The Vikings' brutal code seeped into the cracks of collapsing society. Their gods and symbols returned, appealing to the desperate. This was not a return to the 9th century. It was something new and terrifying. Warlords used Viking tactics and modern tech, spreading fear online. It was a new dark age, illuminated by smartphone screens. Science and art seemed fragile. Survival was all that mattered. The old ways clawed back to the surface. The future was a brutal struggle. The world stands on a precipice, staring into the abyss. The Vikings' return was not just an invasion. It was a test of civilization's strength. They exposed the fragility of systems millions depended on. Modern armies could win battles, but not the war of attrition in the ruins. The Vikings sought only blood and gold, refusing to play by modern rules. Their triumph shattered faith in progress. Fear would haunt the new world. The old gods and old fears were not dead, merely sleeping. The Vikings, armed with iron and will, faced a world of wonders, and triumphed. They forced us to ask, if the past can break us, can we truly survive ourselves? The riddle remains unanswered.